right. I think we are live. Hey, everyone. Probably should have got a drink before I pressed go live. Okay, cool. Today is Blueprint, a new mini stream, mini series, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna add some stuff to Blueprint. I tweeted this out, so that's probably how you found me. But yeah, I tweeted this out last week. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I talked about this before. But the truth is, I don't really get to use a lot of the new stuff readily. New stuff meaning, some of the common practices nowadays in Laravel, because a lot of the stuff I work on really is just Shift. Shift is a 11-year-old project now, 10-year-old project, and it hasn't made sense to go in and rewrite everything as Livewire. I've introduced some small components as Livewire, but the point is Livewire specifically as kind of newer tech. I haven't really used it a lot until these recent side projects, and now that I have, I thought, man, generating some of this Livewire stuff is kind of tedious, right? How can I make this better? Well, of course, I can make it better with Blueprint. So let's do that. Hey, Lewis, how's it going? Was everything resolved with the guys? Yes. Sorry, a quick life event here. Yesterday, I was down here in the basement, no windows. It's just my little basement, cave office. And I kept hearing this clicking and beeping. And I'm like, what the hell is beeping? So I get out of my little cave and I go around the house and I'm trying to diagnose and figure out where is this beeping. And so I start to go upstairs, and our house is kind of a split level. So you go upstairs, there's the doorway, the entryway, and then you go upstairs and you're upstairs, more stairs. So I get up into the entryway, and out of the corner of my eye, I see through the side door window, there's someone at the door. It's the door that's beeping because we have a keyless entry, someone is punching in numbers on the door, beep, 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 and then it's beeping because they're wrong, beep, beep, beep. So it's like, okay, the door's beeping. So I peek out the side window. There's 4 guys trying to get into the house. So it's like, what is going on? So I don't open the door just yet, and I was like, hey, and they're like, oh, someone's in there, and it's like, this is weird. So I open the door, and I'm like, hey, can I help you guys? And they're like, they were like, we're just trying to get in, and I was like, okay. And they said, yeah, is this Verbo? And I was like, no, it's not Verbo. And they were like, oh, we rented this place on Verbo. And I was like, well, no, you didn't. I'm the owner. And, this has never been on Verbo. It's not a rental. I said, there's some rentals in the area, but it's not here. And like one of the guys in the back was like, oh, crap. And so one of them got on the phone. And anyway, long story short, I said, well, let me go put my shoes on. I'll come out and kind of see what's going on. So I go upstairs to get my shoes. There's 2 guys on the back deck, in the back of my house, drinking beer. They had waited, while their friends figured out how to get in the house. They just went and propped up in the backyard, hanging out. So anyway, it was hilarious. But they actually showed me their Verbo welcome email. I came outside on their phone, and it truly had my address. So it was very, very strange. I don't know if they got scammed or like the host fat fingered the number or what, because there is a rental in our area. It's down the street more. But yeah, anyway, it was crazy. They once they realized they were wrong, they were super apologetic. But in fairness, from their perspective, they were at the right address. So at first they were kind of like, okay, dude, well, we rented this place. And I'm like, no, you didn't. So anyway, that's what Lewis is chatting about on the thing. So now that I've burned my entire audience with the 3-minute story there, let's get back to Blueprint. So what I would like to do, let's pull down everything we want on Blueprint. Okay, we're up to date. I think I did that before stream. Let's get to generate Livewire. All right. And let's get into PHP Storm. Good old friend there. I don't think we'll just craft our own little thing today. So I want to attempt to do 3 streams here. Okay, so what we're going to do is today I'm going to try to get it parsing what I believe might be the grammar. Okay, so we'll try to get that today. Tomorrow we'll actually get it generating code based on that grammar. And then in the third stream, we'll probably refine things for Livewire. I'm just making guesses on what should be generated, but I think the audience, I'm live streaming this because, again, I am still getting familiar with Livewire. So I'm very interested. Please tell me in the comments, on Twitter, whatever. Let me know what else might be able to be generated. And of course, Blueprint's open source, so we can PR stuff after the fact. But I like to try to nail down the grammar as much as possible in the beginning, because otherwise it can be a lot of changing and re-architecting. So anyway, it's been a while on Blueprint. Let's bring up Blueprint. There it is. All right, cool. So again, today, let's see if we can get it parsing. Now, it's been a long time since I've actually changed the parser inside of Blueprint. So two things here. First of all, let's do a composer update. And while that's running in the background and making my iMac hum, let's get this full screen. And let's go back over here. All right, cool. Okay, that's going to run composer update, of course. Good. Let's bring up a test. Sorry, my comments are in the way here. All right, there we go. I try to bump up my screen res so like it's compatible for everybody to see. It's probably too large, in fairness, but it makes it difficult to have the comments and stuff up as well. So, but I want to make sure everybody can see it. What are these? Generators, lexers? It's probably a lexer. Yes. Let's make a new lexer. Okay, some of these terms are a little bit technical. I'm a CS major, so I have a degree in computer science, and some of the courses I really loved, imagine this, in CS were compilers. I loved compilers and how they parsed and finite automata and all that kind of stuff. That's just kind of the best part of programming in my mind, at the time. But anyway, grammar, lexer, syntax, all these words are part of the vocabulary of compilers and when you create and parse a language. So this lexer, that's where this terminology comes from for those that may not be familiar. It's going to be most like the controller lexer because again, a component for Livewire, the component class, is effectively your controller. You just name more properties and so forth of things on it. But the point is that as you define it, it's going to be much more akin to a controller than it would be a model or a seeder or any of that kind of stuff. So let's copy controller lexer, copying class. Oh, okay, hold on. We got to wait for these indices to update here. All right, there we go. So let's call this the component, whoa, already had a no, component lexer test. All right, cool. So let's attempt to test drive this just a little bit, just up to the point where I can actually have a draft YAML file. So let's do kind of some of the grunt work here for a second. So we're going to change controller lexer everywhere to be a component lexer. All right. This isn't actually going to exist, so let's go make it exist. And again, I may end up copying a lot of the controller lexer, but for now we'll just leave it like this so our test doesn't necessarily explode. Okay, we don't need to do too much here. We got a setup, we got a mock. We pass in a statement lexer, which is currently not in use. That's fine, doesn't matter. We can leave that alone. Okay, it returns anything. Okay, so of course, let's change these words to anywhere in here where it says controller. We'll change this to, whoa, this is a lot. Maybe we don't want to do this. Whatever, let's do it. We're gonna get rid of some of these tests. Let's do component. All right, escape out of that. Okay, so it returns nothing without components token. Okay, that's fine. It returns components. This is probably as far as we want to go today. It returns components. It returns a web resource. We're not going to be doing any of this resource stuff. Let's just see what else we have in here. It returns API. It returns a specific resource component. Nope. This is all the fancy resource stuff you can do. I think we're fine without a lot of this. Let's get rid of these. Okay, yeah, I think we can pretty much delete the whole rest of this file. So really it's just 2 tests. It does nothing if there are no components. It can handle no components. It's interesting, policies isn't in here. We'll have to understand why. And then of course it can generate actual components. And this is where we would want to start to change things. This might not even be as high as we want, to be honest. Is there a tokenizer? I think Blueprint itself is the tokenizer. Yeah, we need to start here, actually. What's wrong with you? Add method stubs. What method stubs are you missing? Test class must be declared abstract or implement method seed. Resolve PHP unit. What? This is strange. I don't know what that's about. We'll come back to that. Yeah, the Lexer actually, if we look at this test, the Lexer actually is going to get the tokenized array. It's going to get more or less what you might call the abstract syntax tree. So the parser actually needs to happen first. The parser is going to parse out the tokens, which is in our YAML file, turn it into an abstract syntax tree, and then the Lexer makes sense out of those and turns it into, actual statements that get used. The parser's relatively dumb. It kind of just turns things into an array. It doesn't even really validate it necessarily. It may do some high-level validation, but the Lexer's the thing that says, oh, this token's after this token? Okay, that's an if statement, right? So that's kind of the difference between the two. And I think the Blueprint is really just my parser. You could call this the Blueprint parser test, but it's not necessary. What is going on here what are these things? I'm just curious what this generates when I add the stubs. Test seed handles annotation. I don't know what any of that shit is. That is strange. Anyway, all right, let's go back a step. So it parses models. Let's see what we have in here. Models only. It parses seeders. Do we generate seeders? Crazy. I didn't even know we did that. Okay, well, we have a seeders section now, apparently. I don't know why you would have that. I'm surprised I let that in. It's kind of lightweight. I would have just, I think nowadays I would have just said that should have been a plugin. But anyway, whatever. Parses shorthand, parses ULIDs. Okay, so it parses all these kind of special YAML things that we do. It parses longhands fine. It parses resource. Yeah, these are all the various extra things you can do in the YAML. I do think this is where we want to start. I think we probably want to start. Okay, I'm just trying to see if there's like a controllers section here. Registers generators, swap generators. Yeah, this is going to force me to make all the extra stuff. So again, we got to do a little bit of legwork here to get this right. Okay, all right. I think let's go up here and let's say it parses controllers. I think let's borrow it parses controllers and pop that in here and says it parses components. Okay, this will get us down the rabbit hole. Okay, so we'll say components only. Good, that'll get us started. And then I think it'll be easier to go write this in this file first. So let's go do this. Let's touch test fixtures that, and then let's go open this. Okay, this is where we'll get started. And I have a tweet on this, but we can recreate it. What I want to see is a components section, and let's just call this something like update profile. Again, I can clean this up over time. But let's say we have an update profile component in Livewire, right? And then you're going to have this mount. And I think what I'd like to do in mount is just make it comma separated. These are the properties you would want to mount, right? Mount's not required, but if you want to, here's this. It's going to declare the properties for you. It's going to make sure they get passed in, mounted, all that kind of stuff, right? So let's just say if we wanted to mount something on an update profile, we may want to pass in like the user, some kind of user, and I don't know, let's pass in like one more thing, maybe like dashboard, you know, URL. I don't know why you would want to do that, but I'm just demonstrating that we have this comma separated thing that we would want to parse out. And then now let's make another thing here. Let's maybe make like update, right? This is our main action. So we could say something like validate, and we could do user, right? And then maybe we do something else. We could do other stuff like we do in Blueprint. So let's go look at controllers only. Yeah, here. Oh, it's just another action. Okay, so we don't really care. We don't really care what's in here. These don't really matter. Okay, that's fair. Let's kind of follow suit then here. Let's borrow this. And we'll say, you know, action, detail, and other actions, so much detail. Okay, cool. And then, you know, whatever else here, we could say another method really is what we're after. And then we could say, you know, some action, right? Okay. The goal here is that we parse these particular things out. There's other stuff we want to do here, but that's where the lexer is going to come in handy. Right now, again, the parser is dumb. It does not care what actions are really here. I'm just trying to have enough to demonstrate that this section gets thrown into some kind of array that then gets sent on to the lexer. Okay, so if we can get these two tests passing today and actually functional, then I think we're in a good place tomorrow to actually be using that lexer to generate code. So again, pretty dense right now, pretty dense stuff. So thank you for hanging with me. All right, so let's go back to our blueprint test. And now that we have this components. I suppose we probably should do two components. So let's do another, you know, another component. This doesn't really matter. We won't do mount here. We'll just do like main action, you know, reaction. All right, cool. So if we go back to our test, what we should get here is basically all this stuff broken out. And again, this all may just work. We'll see. So we have this update profile. We're going to have a mount action. And what we would want in mount is effectively just an array. So here we would have user and dashboard URL. Okay. Attempt to be, you know, somewhat realistic there. And then now we realize we don't really need to be realistic. We're just, again, dumb kind of parsing stuff. Let's just borrow this. This might be faster. All right. Let's do that. Another method, close you out. All right. And then let's take anywhere we have this and that. And we'll turn this into this and this and that and this and that and comma. All right. Ooh, very close. Missed the opener. All right, cool. That should take care of that one. Okay, so we have update and another action, and then let's finish things out with our another component. Just again, we're just demonstrating that it's going to pull out these components with various methods and this, you know, action reaction stuff, right? So action reaction stuff. So let's copy this test. Let's go run it. I have no idea why vendor. Oh, because orchestra bumped. Okay. I think PHP unit and orchestra bumped, and now there's going to be some weird stuff going on here. Okay, fine. Oops, vendor bin PHP unit that. It still runs. I don't know what PHP Storm's talking about. I'll look into that later. Okay, it pulled out components, capital C. Otherwise, it claimed that everything was correct. Is that really what we want to do? How does parse controllers work? It just has lowercase controllers. Oh, yeah, that's me. That's on me. Okay, that should be components. We don't do capitals. Okay, so the only difference supposedly to PHP unit is that the mount didn't expect the mount did not expect it to be comma separated. It just got a string. Do I care? I don't think so. Again, the lexer It's just given tokens. And the way we've written this, I think do I care, okay, do I care really boils down to a preference. When we're mounting stuff, are we ever going to have additional bits of data that we mount to? Again, remember, Blueprint's not trying to be a replacement for writing PHP. It's supposed to be a rapid generator. So, you know, I'm just tooling around here, but maybe you say something like locked here, right? Maybe. I don't know. These are attributes you can give to these mounted properties. Once you start to do that, does it look more like the model? And now you say something like, okay, I have this user property and it's locked. And, you know, default, you know, so does it look more like a model? That gives me more flexibility for the future, but I think, again, the common syntax would just be this. Can it handle that? So mount gets user, yeah, see. I think for today, let's not get too caught up on it. I think for today, let's keep what it has. And this will be that third and final stream. Okay, do we want to refine mount and allow you to specify attributes of that particular mounted property? I think today the answer is no, which means that this actually needs to be just the straight syntax that I passed in and not parsed out into an array. So if we run this, it'll actually pass. So there's nothing we have to do to the parser because, again, the parser's dumb. It just takes the YAML and it puts it into an array. The lexer is the piece that's smart, but we had to start somewhere. So I think this is the first step. Okay, let's keep going. All right, let's see if we can get this lexer doing what we expect. Okay, so we have this components only. Let's go back to our lexer test. We know now that when we give it, I think we're going to need to give it kind of real stuff now. So let's do that. Let's just do our kind of real one. We'll say update profile. We basically give it the array that we parsed here. We're just going to need to do so in a little bit of a cleaner way. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. I don't need two of them. Update profile, we have mount, we have user dashboard URL. We are going to leave update. We need a real action here. So we could say something like validate user, and then we could say like redirect dashboard URL. Maybe there's something else in here where we, you know, dispatch user, you know, profile or profile updated or something like that. Profile updated with user, something along those lines, right? And then another method, you know, I don't really know what this needs to be. What could we have in here? Who knows? I don't know what other public method you would want. You know, what's another public method that you might actually use in Livewire? And again, this could be Thursday's bit. I think this is fine for now. Yeah. Okay. So what should happen now is actually where this thing gets processed out into more interesting components. So the statement lexer should receive analyze with query all posts render that. So that was our original. What was that? Oh, this is going to be in our old. We copied this from. Okay, so analyze. We don't want to test the statement lexer at this point in time. So what we're really after here is our statement lexer. Our statement lexer are the statement. If we go back and look at let's go back to this controller lexer test. Controller lexer test. Let me go down. Okay, so the statement lexer really just gets what's inside of our pieces. Okay, so it's going to get the all thing, it's going to get the find, and it's going to get the redirect, right? So similarly, we would expect all this to get passed down to our statement, and we'll say something like validate statement, dispatch statement, and redirect statement. Awesome. Okay. And then we don't need to call analyze anymore. Let's just tighten this up a little bit. That's kind of a deep test. I don't think it's necessary. We call subject analyze. We're going to assert the count on components is 1. We're going to assert that the components, the first one is update profile, right? And we're going to assert equals that the name got passed in. Cool. The methods are going to be 2. There'll still be 2 methods. They are still going to be 2 methods. Here's the trick. Mount. Does mount have statements? The methods are going to be mount and update. So, expected count 2. Do I need to, well, do you need to mount, or do you just say, do we just give it properties? See, I don't know. This is kind of where we start to get into tomorrow's generation of stuff. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of the rest of this just to tighten things up. We do know that methods update will have these statements that we said. So let's just borrow those. Or well, how's it breaking those out? Okay, index 1, 2, and 3. That's a little bit, whoops, sorry, and 2. That's a little bit unnecessary, but anyway, we'll do validate, validate statement, and then we'll do, the next one was dispatch statement. Were they dashes or underscores? They're dashes. Okay, we'll fix that. And then we have redirect statement. All right, and then let's clean up our dash, and this is not index, this will be update. And then I'd like to, there needs to be a way to mess with mount. I'm just trying to think on our component object, because it's going to make a component object. We haven't really defined that yet, but this is where we start to drive that out. So I think maybe we do just say method is 1. We'll assert that update has 3 methods in it. And then up here, I'm tempted to do something like this. Let's just borrow this for a second. I'm tempted to do something like this. I'm tempted to do something like properties. Properties. The only properties we're going to be aware of during generation are the ones that you mounted. So if you have specified properties, then we know that we mount them, right? At least for now. Again, we may make this more flexible in the future, but the point is instead of hijacking the syntax and kind of putting a mount method in there, a physical mount method, I'm wondering if we just focus on properties, right? Instead, it gives us a little bit more control, and we can flag. I don't know. Maybe control is not the right word. It makes more assumptions, and again, Blueprint's very opinionated, so I think I'm okay with that. We're going to assert count on properties is 2, right? I think that's fine. And then what we would do is similar to this. We would kind of take those properties, and this property would be the user, I think we said, right? Yep, user, and then dashboard URL. And there's really no, it's really more like, it's kind of like that key exists, right? It's not even assert equals, because right now it doesn't equal anything. And this is where we may start to assign things to it. For now, let's just say assert key, assert array has key. I think this is as far as we're going to go now. So we'll say properties has a user key, right? Oops, that's backwards. Okay, no problem. Let's go here. Boop. All right, and then let's borrow that, cut this out, put that in there. Okay, this is what I want this to look like, I think, for now. Again, we may change the lexer, but what would happen is we come in, we've got this from our parser. Now the lexer goes in and says, okay, this is a statement, this is a component, this is a property, and it puts it all in these objects for us. And once those objects are built up, then the generator steps in, looks at those objects, and generates code based on how it comes in. So this is the bridge. We parse it, we lex it, we build up this data object underneath, and then the generator takes that data object and says, oh, you got these properties? Okay, I'm gonna put you in mount, I'm gonna put you in the parameters, I'm gonna make a property on the component for you. I'm gonna allow you to reference that in statements. Here we go, here's examples of that. And so it's going to do, that's how the code generation is driven out, is through these properties. So again, I think as we drive out more and more examples, real world examples, we might see how this does or does not work. So there's going to be more work to do here. Right now, it's just a simple array of properties. Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple till you can't. Okay, we're not going to be able to run this because immediately it's going to crap out. So let's go back to our lexers. I bet you the lexer has, yep, a contract. So let's implement that. And let's implement that. It has analyze at the very least. Okay, cool. So we got to implement that. But for now, this should actually work. So let's do vendor bin, or sorry, not work, but it should fail without some kind of PHP exception. Oh, that was the wrong, that's the controller lexer. Component lexer is the one I want. Let's close all this other crap. Okay, they both totally fail because my return type's not right. Okay, do the simplest thing you possibly can. So let's go back in here and hey, it's supposed to return an array. Well, guess what? Let's return an empty array. Okay, cool. First test fails because assert count argument haystack must be compatible, null given. Okay, let's go see why that happens. So line 67. What's wrong with you? Line 67. Oh, wait, no. It returns component. It returns nothing. Oh, you're supposed to, okay, you get back more. Why am I passing in policies? It's kind of strange that I'm passing in policies. I think I passed that in to demonstrate that we don't change other things, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. Let's just make it happy, right? Components is an empty array. Okay, one fast, one fails, and that's because our sizes now are no longer what we expect. So I don't remember, again, I haven't written one of these lexers in a long time. Let's go look at the mod. I'm just curious, how long's a long time? Yeah, look at that. Oh man, 10/25/19, 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, almost to the day. Well, no, sorry, next October, sorry. A month shy of exactly 5 years ago. Wow. So yeah, haven't written a lexer in 5 years. So because of that, let's go borrow this controller thing, because again, it's effectively the same as what we're doing before. So I'm just gonna kind of borrow this and let's strip it down to get a feel for how it's kind of actually supposed to work, okay? So we make this registry, and this is where we register components. So the goal here is that I'm gonna run through this copied code, strip it down, and get it to where that first test, you know, again, theoretically should be passing. Okay, so if empty tokens components, then just return the registry. There's nothing to do. No one defined a components thing within their cases. Okay, otherwise they did. Let's bring in a components. Name is definition. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna say new component. This doesn't exist, so that's fine. We're not gonna mess with is set definition resource. However, this gives me the idea that we probably need to say, do you have mount? If you have mount, then my guess is going to be that we should probably parse the properties. Parse and set the properties. Okay, and then definition. What is definition? I don't know what definition is here. I would think that we would continue. But let's keep going down the line. No such thing as an invocable in our stuff. We're not going to support meta properties out of the box, so we're going to close that. Now we go for each, and again, we're not going to add a method here, right? For mount specifically. So I'm gonna bring out meta because I don't know what meta properties are on components yet. So we're going to leave that alone, and then here we would go back and say components name ultimately is equal to, and we're not going to call things controller anymore. So let's call things component, and then we return registry. Okay, so we come in, we make a registry of components. If you don't have any components, we just return the registry. We return the fact that there are no components. And we're doing this instead of just returning regardless or an empty array. We're doing this because all of these lexers build up, again, that abstract syntax tree, which gets used by the generators. So when the generator comes in, it's going to attempt to look for a components token, but it's just not going to have any components in it. So we just want to make sure, again, to build up the full tree of all the things that could be there and let the generators figure out whether or not to generate something. So that's kind of how it works. Each lexer is additive because it parses its own little bit of that YAML file, in this case components. Okay, so if we get down here and there are components, we're going to go ahead and make a new one. This is going to allow us to put the methods and the properties on there. And so we could just kind of follow suit here. Again, we're straying away from the we're straying away from kind of TDD now because we need to build up this component object, and then I think it's all just going to come together very quick, and that's where today's stream will stop. So let's keep going here. Let's do add property, and this would simply for now again be the name. Now of course that's not going to work because we actually need to parse out the definition of mount. So the definition, definition method and body. Definition mount. This may not be what I think it is, but that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna keep going. Oh no, okay, sorry. The name is the component, and then with the definition is gonna have arrays within it, which are the methods. In this case, right now, we are saying mount is a method, but we're specially handling it in our lexer to know that that's properties. So what we actually have to do here is for each, and basically explode exactly the definition on that, and then we're going to pass in trim property. Cool, look, geez. Thanks, Copilot. That's pretty good. Okay, remember, because we explode, if we go back to our test, no need to remember, here it is. So we get down into mount, we're in these definition keys now, so we determined that there is a definition for a mount method, but its body is not another array, it's simply a string, a comma-separated string. So we explode that, and then we passed in the trim property name to add property. Okay, so from what I can tell, to make all this work, we're going to generate a component class. So if we change this to component and we remove all this other stuff, we should be able to go generate that now. That's not it. Generate that now. All right, there you are. Let's go see if there's any kind of yes, implements blueprint model. Okay, fine. I hate that name. Who did that? Did I do that? Come on. There's no way. Okay, blueprint model, and then now we should be able, whoops, let's close our, let's not close our lexer, let's close our test is what I meant to do. Let's do, I like to add this little C component lexer. There we go. All right, let's go back here, and now we should have little squigglies under add properties. So let's go ahead and add this method. So it takes a string for the property name and it returns void. Cool. Let's go back here and add method, and we'll add this method, and it's not an int, it's going to be a string. The method will be the name, and then array will be statements, I think, and it also will return void. Now, I think we could go borrow from controller because, again, both of these things are pretty straightforward. So let's borrow methods. Oh, namespace. I didn't think about that. Yeah, again, we'll handle that. We'll handle that. Okay, let's do that, and let's prop up properties here. All right, cool. So we will keep these other things. That looks good. Let's keep copying from controller. So we construct it with that. I don't know why. Controller constructor. Are you serious? Did I do that? Old JMac, what are you doing? Ugh. Look at this thing right below here in your controller class with the method name constructor. That's, hey, if you didn't know, that was your controller constructor. Comments are worthless. Okay, cool. Never make comments, people. Make readable code. Wow, I can't believe I wrote that. Sad day. All right. Anyway, look how much I've evolved. Okay, cool. So we make a constructor. We set the name, of course. We set the namespace from that. No problem. Okay, so we infer the namespace from the name that we passed in. Totally great. Okay, cool. I don't think there's anything else to do with that. It looks like we have these helpers, so let's go ahead and pull those off, I think. So we're gonna want the same thing here, fully qualified namespace. We're gonna want all of this stuff, adding methods. Let's build this up our way, name and string. All right, cool. Let's go back to, whoops, our component. So let's borrow all of that, bring that in to the party. And we're actually gonna copy these last two our way here. So let's bring in properties, and add property, and it's just got a name, no statements, and it's just got a name. And let's simply, there's no, we did identify those. We did key them on the name and add the name. It's a little silly right now, but again, I think this will evolve as we go. Okay, this, I don't want to jump too far ahead. Policy, prefix. I don't think we need prefix. I don't think we need this API stuff. Okay, so I don't think we need that. Again, this is a dumb data object. We're just passing in a name. We're inferring the namespace. We're just making some getters and setters on it effectively. I'm going to copy some of this other stuff because that seems to be what is used. I'm just curious, what comes in from this contract? Names. Okay, so you need the namespacing stuff. There really should just be a trait. There really should just be a trait that does this. Refactoring is for another day. Let's just get it to work. Class name, if it ends with controller, otherwise. Okay, so we don't want to do that. The class name would simply just be this thing's name. And then the namespace, again, these namespaces may end up changing. We'll probably want to introduce a components namespace here. Let me just finish this before I forget. I'd rather it be empty than gripe that it doesn't exist. Okay, I think that's correct for this component. Let's go back to our lexer. Let's try to run our test. Okay, failed assert. I would expect it to work at this point. So let's start to see why this test fails, and then that will be, let's get this green, and that's going to be the end of today's stream. So let's go 69. Assert count on components on the actual thing that was returned is 1. It's claiming it's 0. So why are you 0? Let's go do some poor man's debugging here. Let's make sure we're getting here. Dump here. All right. We are getting there. Cool, supposedly. Let's just hone in on our actual components. Okay, we're definitely getting there. Okay, why are we not looping over our tokens? Registry, we add components, name, component, return registry. Let's see what registry is by the time we get down here. Registry is still empty components, so we must not be looping the way we think. Let's say loop here with name. Okay, we got in there with update profile. Okay, interesting. We got in there with update profile. Let's say dump. Oh, that continues. That continues not right. That continues not right. Okay, that's the problem. Dump mount. I see what's going on. Okay, yeah. All right, let's get rid of all these dumps. I'm caught up now. I vaguely remember when we copied and pasted that, it actually didn't continue. It unset that particular property. So let's get rid of all these dumps, because that's what's going wrong. We're hitting continue when we shouldn't, which means it's never getting put into the registry. So really what should happen here is we don't continue, we unset the definition for mount, because it's not actually a method. We don't want to add it to our methods, but we do still need to parse the methods that are part of this particular component in our for each loop. So again, a nod here to nested code and how that can also be, terrible. Ideally we could break this out in a different way, but it's kind of how all the other ones are working right now. So again, refactor another day. Let's run this, and we're green. Okay, so one little mix up there with the continue statement, but we're all good. This is parsing the way we expect. It's calling our statement lexer. Right now that's just a mock, but that's okay, because again, a lot of the properties that we're going to, a lot of the statement, a lot of the grammar, dispatch, validate, redirect, these statements all exist because again, they're the same potential things you can do in components. Now there might be one or two more things that you could do. So I could see the statement lexer being updated to allow for particular Livewire-esque only statements. Or again, the generator being smart enough to know which things to generate. So we'll just kind of see how that plays out in the next stream, tomorrow's stream. Okay, so tomorrow's stream will be the goal of, we'll get in here now to the generators, and we will make a component generator. And just like the controller generator, this now gets the abstract syntax tree, which will contain component objects and statements and properties that now can generate code, right? And we'll start generating the component with all the methods that it says, with the code that it says. And I'm optimistic that that will go relatively quick, as today's stream mostly has as well. We won't have as much of the setup or the description or my story about the 6 dudes that showed up at my door. So, oh, do not disturb is off. So there's the end of the stream, people. Thanks for joining live, and see you all tomorrow, same time, same places. Thanks again.